like. So when the Jews left Egypt and wandered through the desert, their first encampment was in a place called, guess what, Sukkot. There are two perceptions of what happened in Sukkot. One opinion is that the Israelites dwelt in actual huts. But that's how they did. Picture this, you're wandering in the hot desert, you look up in the distance, and there before you is God's Club Med. And best of all, it's free. Not a bad deal. The other opinion is that why do we sit in the Sukkot? Because it says that clouds of glory surrounded the Jewish people. Neat. Either way, Club Med or Magic Fog, we thank God for sustaining us in this dreaded desert. So, if this happened during Exodus, why don't we sit in huts on Passover? It's a good question. Everybody asked me that question in the synagogue this week. Based on this Sukkot encampment reason, this would be the perfect time. So why not? I mean, if we left Egypt and that's where we're in these huts. So why not sit in a hut on Pesach? That's when we first started. So two answers. First, as the story unfolds, things didn't quite work out that well. The clouds of glory that surrounded the Israelites were removed after the sin of the golden calf. They repented, and God forgave them on Yom Kippur. Perfect timing. So the clouds of glory were reinstalled 5 days later on Sukkot. So if you take the reasoning of these clouds of glory, which disappeared at Mount Sinai after the sin of the golden calf, and only came back later, therefore we sit in the hut on Sukkot because that's when those clouds of glory reappeared. The other reason is if you take the other reason is it was actual huts. We sit in huts in the fall is to show that we're doing it to fulfill the mitzvah, not because of convenience. If we sat in a hut Passover time, it would be in spring. Who wouldn't want to sit on a patio at a nice time of the year? No problem, with pleasure. But in the colder fall, when it rains, time like this, it is less pleasant. And parts of the world that it's almost winter. If we go out and sit in the sukkah, despite the elements, we must doing it. Obviously, we're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah and not because of convenience. So either way, it all fits in why we are all looking forward to celebrating the sukkah this evening. And hopefully each one of us listening will have a chance to go to your local sukkah or you have your own sukkah and participate with everybody else in this amazing, important aspect of this holiday. The sukkah erases the ranking of wealth. Everyone dwells in the sukkah, rich or poor. The rich man must leave his fancy mansion to camp out in this humble shack at the grace of the elements. It teaches the rich that physical possessions are not as permanent as they seem, and that we're not always in control. Of course, to the poor, the sukkah demonstrates that just as our forefathers were sustained in the barren desert, so we can have the confidence that God will provide. During Sukkot, the poor and the rich are really all in the same boat, or better yet, in the same sukkah. Humans have a tendency to think that we are in complete control. We know in our minds that it's not so, but we act as if our fate and that of the world are in our hands. So we leave our permanent home for a temporary abode to show that we are, in a certain sense, not exactly in control of our life. Leaving our permanent house for a temporary abode shows that we are mutable. The ultimate is to put our trust in God, the only stable being in the universe. The idea comprises a biblical book called Kohelet, which is read on Sukkot. King Solomon says, the author of the book of Kohelet says, "Vanity of vanity, hevel avolim, all is in vain. What profit has man of all his work, wherein his labors under the sun?" At the end, King Solomon sums it up by saying, finally, when all is done, fear God and keep his laws, for this is the duty of all mankind. The wisest, this was King Solomon. He was the wisest and one of the richest men of all time. He discovered that God is the only stable force in this world, not his possessions, not his labor. We certainly drive that point home when we, of course, we sit inside the sukkah. Hello to Gail Cole, Boker Tov, and I'd like to share. We have one of our wonderful Facebook friends, Gail Cole, and she tells me of a very moving story, and I want to interrupt my own self at this point. See, at one time, I have to be very careful not to give away too much, in terms of privacy and confidentiality. But a particular person, Gail, couldn't go to Tashlich. Couldn't go, right, on your Rosh Hashanah. For whatever reason, she wasn't able to get to a river area. And her dear husband went out, took a fishbowl, and put in a kipper, put in a fish inside of a fishbowl and brought it to her. Because she was upset. He was upset that she couldn't go to Tashlich. And they called the fish Kip, right? Because Yom Kippur, Kip. I was very moved by this story of the length that was gone to make sure this person did the Tashlich. So thank you, Gail, for sharing that with me. Also, Jonathan Wolf, who's a renowned scholar, that the gematria of etrog in Hebrew is related to the concept of joining, chavrot. Certainly when we take all the four kinds together, it brings all different kinds, all of us together. Welcome to Tom Schwartz. Good morning to you, and to Anne Miriam, and to Brian Allen, and to Charles Gruber. Shalom, and good morning to everybody joining us. So here we have several reasons why we go into this semi-flimsy hut for the week. As the holiday falls after the time of the main harvest, we also celebrate the bounty by being outside and closer to nature. Whatever reason for Sukkah makes you comfortable, don't forget that with all of this, we must be happy. It's an important part of the holidays to be happy. Can you force emotion? Be happy. I mean, it's an emotion. Obviously not, but it is a matter of cause and effect. If we really get into the Sukkah thing, putting aside the cares and the worries that surround our regular routine, a feeling of peace and happiness and contentment will really enter into our lives. The holiday of Sukkot is characterized by two themes, joy and unity, as Professor Wolf just pointed out. Joy and unity. Although we are required to be joyous in all festivals, the joy of Sukkot surpasses the joy of any other festival. In the holiday prayers, Passover is called the season of our liberation, Zman Cheresenu. The Shavuos is described as Zman Matan Torasenu, the season of giving the Torah. But Sukkot, on the other hand, is identified simply by Zman Simchasenu, the season of our rejoicing. And our sages tell us, whoever did not witness this festival of water drawing, which was celebrated in the temple times, has really not seen the joy in their lifetime. So the whole holiday of Sukkot is all about joy. Both mitzvahs associated with this holiday are devoted to increasing unity amongst ourselves. The Sukkah, of course, is a place where we all gather and socialize, eat, drink, speak words of Torah. Which reminds me that every one of us listening are invited to our great barbecue in the Sukkah this Thursday evening on that day, of course, is September 27th at 5:45 p.m. Barbecue. Come to our Sukkah at Chabad of Mineola and come and enjoy the holiday together. Indeed, the Talmud tells us all of us are worthy of occupying the same Sukkah. Everyone eats his own matzah and drinks his own 4 cups of wine, but all of us, when it comes to Sukkahs, we all occupy the same Sukkah. We share the same walls and the schach. We all make an effort of going into a Sukkah with everybody else. The 4 species are also expression of Jewish unity, because each of the 4 species that we take, the lulav, the esrog, hadassim, and haravas, each of them have aspects of unity. For example, etrog, why do we take a citron fruit? It looks like lemon-like, but it's not a lemon. It's from the citron family. It's the only fruit in the world that actually hangs on the tree through the 4 seasons. So it combines, it unifies all aspects of the life. If you look at the lulav, it's also each of these little branches is made up of 2. The hadassim, which is the myrtle leaves, are also there's a combination of 3 little leaves, all coming out of one point of one stem. And of course the aravos, which is the willows, they grow in bunches. So every aspect. So we take all these 4 kinds, which are individually aspects of unity, and bring them all together. So there's a further deeper aspect of unifying, bring them all together. Our sages tell us that the 4 kinds actually represent 4 kinds of people, 4 kinds of personalities. You have someone who's like an etrog at smell and taste. You have someone who has a palm, like a palm, which of course produces dates. It has taste but has no smell. The aravos, The hadassim have smell and no taste, and the aravos, which is the willows, have no smell and no taste. And this represents 4 kinds of personalities. There are people who have smell and taste. They're into learning, intellectual, as well as doing good deeds. There are people who do a lot of good deeds, don't learn too much. There are people who do a lot of learning but don't do too much, and vice versa. Those who do good deeds but don't learn. And then you have people who are not into anything. Nevertheless, the mitzvah of Sukkot is to take all 4 together. You don't just take the etrog, which is so full of smell and taste. And it actually turns out to be the smallest in terms of the height of the lulav and the other parts of it. And we all learn from each other. Everybody has a place in this world. From the most tasteless and smellless as the rava all the way to the etrog, we're all united together. So both these qualities, unity and joy, are the products. Why do we do this? People ask me, why do we have all these holidays in one period of time? The answer is that everything that we experience on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is now coming to bear in us. There's a spiritual awakening that we have on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. During the high holidays, we repent, we wipe away all negativities, we reunite our relationship with God. And a person who has now a clean slate and is focused on his priorities becomes a much more happier person, right? As opposed to a depressed person walking around with guilt and lack of direction. So conflict and ill feeling towards others are usually the outcome of self-centeredness and jealousy of another person's possessions and positions. So after spending Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur in a more deeper way, it's more about God and less about ourselves. And when a person suddenly realizes that it's all about what God is doing and the blessings that we get from others, there's less jealousy, there's less, all kinds of negativity going on, and therefore unity is the exact results of a high of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now we come out and we show, just as in the story with Agnon, we show that even if we may have a beautiful etrog, but if someone else's life can be elevated by your beauty, by what you've bought, and you can give it to someone else, then you've really experienced a good Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Coming out of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur without that kind of experience, it lacks the whole basic. And therefore, clearly, we've all elevated ourselves on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and now we're ready to express that unity, express that blessings with others inside of a sukkah, sharing the lulav nesri with everybody else, and learn how to express that with real joy, true joy, right? Look, how do we express the sukkahs as being the time of joy in what we do with other people, celebrating together, have a Simchas Beis HaSheva together, sharing the mitzvah lulav nesri together, dancing together, right? What's the last thing we do on the high holiday season? We dance Simchas Torah, dance in circles, remind ourselves that we all are equidistant to the center. The center of our life is the Almighty God. We all distance, and when you dance, it's also an act of unity, an act of caring for others, because when you move in a circle, you're moving over for somebody else. Somebody else has made space for you, you've made space for somebody else. So clearly, we're going into a very, very special and important part of the high holiday season, and I want everyone to have a wonderful, joyous, uplifting Sukkot holiday. Check out your local Chabad. Always available to welcome you to the sukkah. Everyone's welcome to join our sukkah at any point of the holiday. If you don't have a lulav nesrik, please join us. We'll be happy to share it with you at any point throughout the holiday. And of course, Paulette Hope has also joined us. Unbelievable. That's all the way from Florida, land of our fathers. Unbelievable. So, dear friends, I'm having a good time. And most importantly, be sure to join the Sukkot parties available. Let us all join and sing and dance and say l'chaim. This is your host, Rabbi Pearl, wishing you all the best of the best. Sei gesund, a good yontif.